What's up, internet world, and welcome back to the channel. Today I bring you the 2022 Porsche Panamera.
So you want to buy a 911, but you got one of these. Children. You got no choice to buy something bigger because when you have growing children, a 911 is just a little bit too tight. Voila, the Panamera. But we're in a bit of a crisis because the Panamera is sort of a dying breed. They refreshed it and gave you more toys last year. But is that enough? Especially when you have an all-electric Taycan as a competitor. So when I think about the world, I try to find the best value for money and the best offering one can provide. And the 911 is just that when you're looking at a sports car. So yes, Panamera, thank you for the extra 2 doors. And this is arguably the best 4-door handling sedan, I wouldn't say on the planet, but I would say very close. So what is Porsche doing to sort of bump up the sales? What are they gonna do to give us more? They're doing what everybody else is doing that makes sedans, throwing more product in there. And that's what this is. This is the Platinum Edition. And they give you almost 14 grand worth of extra goodies just for you to buy it. And still, this car is almost $140,000 Canadian. And even more crazy is you can get 24 different types of Panameras. It's like, I want to buy something, and when I go out and try to look for it, I realize there's so many options, and now I'm confused. So the question I have is, will this car still be around in 5 years? It is only gas powered and has a hybrid option, but what else? Why would somebody buy this today, knowing that in 4 or 5 years this thing could be gone when all manufacturers, including Porsche, are getting electrification in their blood? So let me know in the comments below, do you think this car will still be around in 5 years? And while you're doing that, you can also smash the subscribe button. Every Panamera is a quick Panamera. Even this that we have today that makes 325 horsepower and 331 pound-feet of torque still does 0 to 60 in 5.2 seconds. And you can climb all the way up to get one that does 0 to 60 in a whopping 2.9 seconds, even though this thing weighs 4,300 pounds. That is why you buy a Porsche. Porsche Panamera 4. Here's the deal, 2.9 liter, 325 horsepower and 331 pound-feet of torque. Not big numbers, but you got an 8-speed wet dual clutch transmission. Just check out how easy this thing is to launch. Drive modes from normal, sport, and sport plus. Foot on the brake, foot on the gas, and just listen. This feels way faster than 330, whatever I just said. And that is because Porsche does an awesome job in making something that makes a certain amount of power feel so good. As opposed to something that they just throw out and say, yeah, it makes 500 horsepower just to sell it. It's hard to fathom something this expensive can only make 325 horsepower. But then when you drive it, so engaging. But the best part about it is that I can do it over and over and over again. Just a whole lot of camera shaking. How cool is that? There's no stability program to touch. There's nothing. I just get in here, Sport Plus, foot on the brake, foot on the gas, and it goes sick. So to the front, we've got this color called Copper Ruby Metallic, along with these awesome matrix headlights. They look so aggressive, and this is standard when you get the Platinum. Now, as far as everything else, look how wide this is, and look at the air intakes, and the width of it is really clean. Nothing really new because this has been around for so long, they've just kind of cleaned it up. So if you want one that's been tested and cleaned up, well, voila, this is what you gotta look at. So in its second generation, check this out. This is the difference maker right here. It flows, it's clean, it's not awkward anymore. If you're feeling creative, you'd like to know that you get 26 wheel options. That is wild. How are you gonna pick a wheel when you got 26 to pick from? When I'm hungry and I go to the supermarket, I have no idea where to start. And if I had 26 options, good luck to you. But you're lucky because you have 6-piston brakes in the front and 4 in the back. You have adaptive suspension, that is air suspension, and you have rear-wheel steering. You have all this black trim around the car, and this color, again, is a little bit oldie, but it doesn't look too bad on this thing. That's what I'm thinking. So here's the deal. Getting in and out of this thing is pretty difficult because it's low. Now it does have air suspension so you can raise it up, but I suggest always having it up high because getting in and out of a low car is fine when you buy a 911, but a daily like this can get a little bit difficult. Now if you look at the back of this thing and the front, it's hard to really tell it's a 4-door sedan. They've done such a good job to make sure that the back makes it feel like you have a 911, including this massive rear spoiler, this single LED that stripes all the way across, and of course, the sport exhaust. Voila, I can fit in the back of a Panamera. I've got about 38 inches worth of width and probably close to about 37 or 38 in terms of depth. So not the largest trunk in the world, considering this car is pretty long. What do the back seats feel like? Back seat of the Panamera. Now the reason I love this back seat is not because the seat itself, at least the bottom part, it's the upper part. The fact that the people in the back feel like a driver with these cool upper crested headrests that make it look so sporty. There's nothing out there like it that does this. You get cars that have sort of contoured seats, but nothing that makes you feel like a full-out Recaro seat in the back. Now as far as quality, well obviously this is an expensive car, so I'm expecting full-out amazingness, and this is what this thing does. Now this does have a center console that sort of breaks it up so you can only fit 2 people in the back here. So for all you commenters out there, yes, you can actually fit a person here. I have no idea where the legs are gonna go, but you have a seatbelt for them in case you have to. This is not one of those things that you have 2 extra seats in the back so you can fit 2 people just in case. This is somebody that basically has no legs because I have no idea where are they gonna put them. I also get this fancy moonroof all to myself, and I can control it by simply pushing a button. I do have fancy soft closed doors when I close it lightly, but it has another feature in the doors that people may not realize. It has this little shock absorber that makes it easy to sort of hold that position. So when I want to open this door and keep it here, it's there, it's not moving. So wind cannot blow it over, and if I want to pull myself, I have to actually kind of give it a yank. Strong stuff. It always feels so good to jump in a Porsche. It feels solid, it feels together. It feels like a 911. This thing does have heated and cooled seats. It does have an awesome steering wheel that is pretty much the same as a 911. It does have one really odd feature, and that's probably the biggest downfall of this interior. They've tried to clean it up. Now there's no more buttons. If you ever jumped in an older Porsche, I mean like something that's 5 years old, there's a million buttons. It looks like an aircraft carrier. Everything does something specific. But now a lot of that has been transferred to the screen up front, except for one really weird thing, the center vent. This center vent can be controlled just like a Tesla, where you can move your hands up and down and it'll go to where you want it to go, except it only does it left or right. You see, when the air flows a certain direction, whether it be upward or downward, I cannot control it. So for me, I'm driving and I have this wind blowing in my face all the time, and I absolutely hate it. Well, I cannot change that because my son over here wants to have it in his face. So there's some fighting going on, which is why the back seats are important. Everything else, though, is up to date. Porsche has everything you need to run a car in 2022, including wireless charging, wireless Apple CarPlay, and of course wireless Android Auto. It's got digital gauges, but still kept the analog, so I can look at it and say, wow, that RPM gauge looks sweet when it bounces off the rev limiter. It does have your drive modes all easy there, and of course I can adjust my suspension and my exhaust note. Everything else is super easy, nothing really to complain about. Everything feels really solid and good and Porsche at this price point. So let's take a quick dive into Porsche's latest infotainment. As you can see, the buttons are bright, they're easy to read, and there's a lot of them. Now, we can go through it step by step, but you guys know the deal. We really just jump into the vehicle portion to see what kind of toys it allows us to adjust. So in this specific case, you can adjust your different drive modes, your chassis height, and of course, my favorite, to adjust the spoiler by holding a button. Next up would be other things like assistance that you can adjust, your trip computers, and of course, your comfort, which includes ambient lighting. But like most people, you're probably just going to use Apple CarPlay. And this is what it looks like. It fills up the whole screen, which is really nice. It's not a half screen or cut, and it's very bright, and the contrast and clarity is amazing. What's really cool about the Panamera is I can just go easily from reverse to drive and just kind of move it and pivot it, and the transmission just engages really fast. I find that some cars, especially when we do these little runs here, I find that when I'm going in reverse and I'm trying to make a U-turn, it's just so like tiresome and there's so much work involved in it. But this thing I can just reverse, drive, and as soon as I put in reverse, it engages, I put in drive, it engages. I don't have to wait until it kicks in. There's no delay there. And it's just those little things and how solid this thing is. Yes, it weighs 4,300 pounds or whatever. It's a heavy sedan and it does look a bit old manish, a bit, but that's because it's this color. But the feel is just so good, and when you drive other things, you're like, I'll deal with it looking old manish a little bit because it's just such a good, easy daily driver, just like a 911. That's why they sell so many of them. And again, nothing I'm saying is new here because Panamera has been around forever. It's just that this is better looking now, just like when the Audi A7 would kind of dominate Panamera sales, or even the S7, because it just looked better. But now the Panamera actually looks pretty good. You have the pressures of having a Taycan out there, and you get the pressures of people buying SUVs, so maybe you can get a deal. Or maybe not, because this thing is expensive as hell anyways. But I guess it doesn't matter, because this is what you want. And you can hear that turbo spool up, actually spool up. Not like in the distance, you can hear it right here. Pretty cool. So this Panamera costs somewhere between an S7 and an RS7 from an Audi. And the question is, would you buy this Panamera that does 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds more than an Audi S7? That is really, really interesting because the S7 is way faster. It's an Audi, so your service may be better, may be worse, not sure. But what about the looks? This thing now is better looking. It still has this crazy blind spot back there, but I would buy this over an Audi S7 even if the Audi is faster. And even if the Audi is just actually more unique. There's not a lot of Audi S7s out there. There's a lot more Panameras just because you want Porsche. You want the brand. You want to boost the ego. You want to spend the money because you deserve it. But even if you do fork out the money, the S7 does not drive like this. It does not corner and handle like this. It may do it on paper, but it doesn't do it from the soul. But the cool part is we're gonna get a ton more Porsches to the channel because Porsche Canada is hooking us up. So hey, if you like Porsches and you like an opinion, thanks for watching because we need your support. Otherwise we're not getting Porsches. See ya.